the day after the destruction from yesterday. I do want to talk about some stuff today. Just a little bit about the game. I thought for the first 20 minutes, I thought we played okay. We had a couple of chances to score. I think on an informed Rashford or informed Hoyland, I think maybe we get a score there. And that might change the game a little bit. I mean, their quality proved better in the second half. Obviously, they were better man-to-man than we were. I think the penalty changed the game. But it wasn't, I mean, we still had chances, and we had chances at the end of the first half. I think that City can be exposed on the back. We're the team that's done that before in the past. That is their Achilles heel. Everybody says they have a good defense. They don't on the counter, they don't. And of course, what happened, they got the second goal, and we didn't play well after that. And we still had another chance to make it 2-1 late in the game. And who knows, anything could happen. We did it before. But what I want to talk about is just again, the overreaction to the game, the overreaction to Ten Hag, and one of his comments that he'd said after the game. I'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about two different YouTube channels. One that I think is doing a really good job. Had a really good video this morning. I just want to give more of a criticism at the end. When you say all this stuff that he needs to change, when Ten Hag needs to go back to where he was before, you actually have to give a solution. You can say that, but you got to show us how you make that solution. I'll give you my solution for that. If you think at this point that needs to happen, coaches are going to still try to get results, and they might be pragmatic to do it. And we had this. Ferguson did this as well. So this idea that we've never been pragmatic in the past when we had better players is wrong. The other one is the big YouTube channel that is bigger than themselves at this point. And they have other little side projects. So they're basically entertainers. They like using clickbait type titles. They're all fans. I'm not saying that they're not, but they're over the top. When you have a 40-year-old man and they have a 20-year-old woman and they're basically emoting the same, there's something more than just a normal experience. You should surely be upset by losing to Manchester City, the greatest team in the world ever. But you should not go in and say certain things that they're doing and then continually blame guys who are 70 years old, the owners of this team, that we're not producing on the field. It's a problem, but it's not the problem. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is that Beth, who's from the United Stand, who I have no problem with, she's a young girl, beautiful girl. Most of her opinions I agree with. I thought that Mount should have started as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Of course, when he came in the game, he had no effect at all in the game. And there's a reason for that, because nobody gets the ball to the midfield, because apparently we don't trust our midfield without Casemiro in it. So she sent a tweet, I think last night, or somebody from another one did it as well, and she did a similar thing, basically said, what are the 3 things that are wrong with Manchester United? And do this every time we lose, this stuff comes out, right? What's wrong with the team? And you get like Gary Neville and other people sitting there saying that the club is toxic. So when players come there, that toxicity takes over and they can't play up to their ability, or managers get there and they can't play up to their ability. I think that's all bullshit. I think there's some reasons for that, but I don't think should dictate how we play on the pitch. The truth is that we didn't have all the money now. Other people have money. People recruit better than we do, and we're going to talk about that. And sometimes you go through these turns. It happened at Liverpool for 20 years. It's happened to us right now. Teams get better. They get more influence in the game. They get more money, and they recruit better players, and they get better coaches. Now, as all the good coaches that we've had, and they've all been good, probably I wouldn't put Ragnick in there, but I think Ragnick knew what was going wrong, and he told everybody, and everybody knew this. But we had world-class managers. City's had one. I mean, they actually had one before Pep got there, and he won. I think he won a champion. He won the championship. So it's not like they were a decent team before he got there. This is something that Pep does, and we could have another video. But let me talk about what Beth did and just put it out there, and I'll give you my response to it. What are the 3 wrong things of Manchester United? And everybody wants to say the Glazers, or everybody wants to put Ten Hag in there. And I'm like, fortunately for both of them, both Mark, Sam from United People's TV, and Beth have both said it won't help anything to change the manager. I can just say from in the past years, and it's on this channel, I've always been latest to get people out. I never wanted Mourinho to leave. I knew exactly what was wrong with the team. He had some issue with the management, of course, but he had cancers in the team, and we couldn't get rid of them because they were on huge wages. And it's a style of play that he plays that doesn't really correspond with how we want to play at Manchester United. But he had a team that finished second, got 81 points, clearly behind City, but that was probably the best manager job we've ever done until maybe last year or one of the years under Ole. But I think the good year we had under Ole was during the COVID year, and we didn't really have to deal with going to places and dealing with their fans and everything like that. But we had really good players in some areas. This new United is not even close to the players that Mourinho had it or Ole had. I mean, it's not even close when you think about it. We got way too many guys who are way too old. A couple of them we bought panic buys, and we just got to get past all that. So my 3 responses to that was our quality, meaning our players. We are not at the same level as City. Now again, I don't think that the gap is really that huge. I don't. I think that when I respond to Sam's, is the fact is that you can't even look at the team that we put out there on Sunday and think that there's a possibility that we were going to beat City if we were both playing at the same team that we have. It's just not. That team is probably a team that would get almost relegated. I'm just saying. I'm trying to be faithful to say this, or a team that will be obviously in the second part of the top, or the 11 to 17. I don't think they'd finish in the top 10. And when you got guys that are out of form, this is what happens. We had chances and we didn't do anything about it. I'll talk about it a little bit later. The other part was recruitment, and that comes back to the players, but this is a different part of it. It's who's actually going out and scouting these players. Rangnick talked about this, how we had to fundamentally change everything. And one of the things I probably didn't have a really good opinion about with Ten Hag is that I don't think him and Rangnick really had to sit down and talk about things. I think the fact that they're similar type of players or coaches, that should have happened. But again, I think Ten Hag knew this, and he thought he could come in and have his standards and his style of play, and it would be fine. And we're going to talk about that too, about what he said after the game. Once I get past this part with Beth, same thing. And he's learned that now he has to be more pragmatic to get results because he doesn't want to be fired. And the problem is another part I'm going to say is our fan base. But recruitment is that we're going out and getting guys that are older. We're not going and buying young guys that are proven, guys that are in about 22, 23 that are actually proven in the Premiership or maybe in other leagues. I mean, you can look at Anthony. It wasn't a signing that we actually needed at that time because we still had Greenwood before all that shit happened. We still had Sancho. So I don't know if it's something really needed, but it was Ten Hag's boy, so he went and got it. And I'll talk about it a little bit later as well. And getting Casemiro, great last year, but he's in his last 30. We need to stop buying players that are right near 30. We have to just deal with what we have and just deal with the fact we're not going to finish in the top 4. We're not going to be relegated. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well, about promoting our youth team players and see what we can get from that. And actually trust them and be okay if we go in and we lose 3-2 to Fulham playing 4 or 5 guys that would be in the youth team last year. And this is what we did in 1994. We can do this again. I understand everybody wants to win right away. We need to be better than this. And that leads me to the third point. And again, the top 3, I don't put the Glazers in there. I put number 3 is our toxic fan base. Seriously, after the game and even during the game, there are so many people on Twitter, so many people that are in the comments on Mark's channel because he gets like 40,000 people watching him during the game. They're all saying, and Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out, Ten Hag, Ten Hag. This swell of shit that goes into our club that just pushes this stuff. And we have some of these guys that are on social media anyway, they're the players, and they believe this shit. So they don't play 100% for the manager, and then it just continually spirals out of control. And you want a manager to be truthful when he's at the podium. Mourinho did that. Everybody wanted to get rid of him. Ragnet was being truthful. Everybody wanted to get rid of him. Ollie wasn't so much, and Ten Hag is, and there is a part of a little bit of a language barrier, and people get upset by what he says, and it's not really a criticism of the players. It's just we believe in standards, and people think that standards means that you're playing poor. You know, he said what he said. He's not going to blow up. He's not going to put his entire team under the bus. He apologized to the fans. He said that we tried as we could. You know, the penalty changed the game. These are all true facts. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't really. You can't really forgive the second half performance. You just hope, okay, you're going to come out and do something about it. We didn't do anything. We let City take over the game. They got that second goal, and it was pretty much it. So I don't really. But we have the highest. We have the most fans of anybody on social media. It's not even close, and so many of them are toxic when it comes to this. And I hate using that word, but they are. Right away, they want everything right away because all these people are under 30 and they are all ADD, and they want everything right away and they think it's going to change right away. It was never going to change right away. You have to give the man credit for what we did last year. In full stadiums, even though Liverpool and Chelsea had down years, we still finished third and we won a cup. And we beat City at home and we beat Arsenal at home. And we played a decent style of football. People forget all this stuff. Now, so that was my 3, right? And everybody can't say, other people said other things. A lot of people said Rashford and Bruno. People said the Glazers. And I'm like, okay. Bruno has a place in his team. So does Rashford. It's just that they're both out of form. And Bruno can't play on the right. Now, that's the tactic part. You can say that Ten Hag got it wrong. But again, when we go through the actual team, who else was going to put out there? I would have some options, but just try to understand what we were going up against last game, and what we actually had on the field, and then just reserve your judgments to saying that Ten Hag needs to be out. It's just it's lunacy at this point. Okay, now I'll say what Ten Hag said after the game. And again, I still think there's some sort of a barrier of language when it comes here. And I'm going to try to actually tell you what he's actually saying here. And I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said. But a lot of people online and Sam from United People's TV talked about this, and that's what he led with. And I understand his frustration with it. And he talked about what he should no longer be, because he talks about he wanted to be the most transitional team in world football, and he changed what he was doing before. I don't think he actually has. I think that there's been way too many injuries and he can't really incorporate that type of style yet. That's what he wants to do, and now we're doing a pragmatic approach, and he thinks, Sam believes, that if we continue playing that type of play, that we're not going to get the results, and that eventually it's going to get him fired. And I'm going to said before, times you have to be pragmatic. You have to do that against City with the team we had out there. I have no issue with that. And I understand that there's a certain way that we play as Manchester United, but we haven't really seen that in 10 years. So always really good on the break. That's kind of like what we've done the last 10 years. And we were always like that under Ferguson as well, but we had the ball a lot more than normal. But let me just read this real quick, as much as I can, with my stroke and all that. I'll try to be as honest as I can. He was asked about why can't this team play more like like the Ajax team that he coached. And he said, we will never play that football because those were different players, he explained. Of course, these are players that actually got through the Ajax youth team. They've been trained this type of play for a long, long time. So when they get the first team, they're already well schooled into it. So you expect them to play well. Doesn't mean that at the higher level that they're going to win. I mean, they got to the semifinals. They probably should have beat Spurs. It'd been interesting to see if they'd have played Liverpool, if they'd have won that. Who knows? It's possible they could have. And it was a different type of play. This is what, 6, 7, 8 years ago when Liverpool won that Champions League. So, you know, and now it's people understand how to actually respond to that. But anyway, those players were already built for that. We have way too many players that he's trying to get their round holes into a square peg. It's not working. So he's continually have to tinker it, and because of injuries and everything else, and he's got people where they shouldn't be. And of course, we don't look fluid from it at all. Let me continue on. He explained, but this is not all why I came here. We are playing different football that I showed at Ajax because I have to, because I can't play the same way. So why do you think he's saying that? Do you think it's because the Premiership is so different that he can't play that way? Because maybe if you play that type of play, you're going to get more fouls and people get red carded? Or is it possibly because he doesn't have the players to play that way? Or he understands that he's been in the league now for over a year, that he understands he can't really play so open and so pressing because the players are so good in the Premiership, so much speed, that it's very difficult to do it. But again, I think there's a language barrier. He's basically saying, I don't have the players to play that way. and it's going to have to take time. So when I talk about toxic fan base, you have to also put fans' expectations and their patience. We have to give this man money and time. We sit there and laughed at Arsenal for all those years when they finished 8-8, but now they have the top 3 team in the Premiership, and they play like they are one of the top 3 teams in the Premiership, and they've been through the system long enough. And you've got to give him time to do it. But because we need results, because all he ever says is every game we play we have to win. He thinks he has to get a result, so he selects players and hopes that they're going to get the results. Now, is there anybody? I want to talk about what Sam actually said, and this is basically the same thing. He gave a lot of reasons. He said that he changed his philosophy. I don't think he has. I think that he knows the players he has out there. He can't actually do the pressing. He can't. They're not fast enough. They don't track back. They don't have the mentality to do it, and they won't go through a brick wall for the club. A lot of them are mercenaries. I hate to say it. I like Casemiro, but he's a mercenary. He came in for the money, and that's fine because he's closed. He shows that he cares for the club. Varane's the same way, and these are good players, but they're all getting Casemiro his issues with his behavior on the field. Not all but true, but out for a lot of times. Varane injuries. It's just, as a coach, you can never be sure you're going to have for the top 11 on your team. And so here we go. So he doesn't have really the players to play that style. So now he has to do something that's more pragmatic. He has to get the turnover and then try to hit them on the break. And we had chances yesterday to do it, and we didn't do anything with it. So that's how Ole beat City. That's how Mourinho has beat City before. It's not new. And look, City is not that much better than everybody else. They might have more depth. And the fact is, if they hold on to the ball, but they've not really played well this year. And we had an opportunity to we could have beat them 3 times. They could have been lost 3 times in the league in a row. They were coming in there with a great form. They didn't really play good against young boys in the Champions League. This was a team that could have been beat. However, you cannot really blame the manager based on the people he had to select. Now, in a great world, when everybody was fighting for the crest, then we would have more players to play. We didn't have Sancho available. We didn't have Greenwood available. Those are two players that could have clearly impacted the game. But for whatever reasons, Anthony is still dealing with the shit he's dealing with, and he has never meet the form that we all want him to be. So let's go over yesterday's game, over the selection. And I said before the game, I mean, obviously I had 4 or 5 or 6 of these wrong. Well, I didn't. I had the back 4 right. I thought Mount should have played. If he's going to be the guy who's going to wear number 7, you think he has to play. So that, to me, I would say that's a failure on his part. But when Mount came in, again, this is what Ten Hag said, I want to be more offensive. They bring in Mount, they take in Amrabat, and everybody said Amrabat was the reason why they scored 2 more goals. I don't think he got the ball more than 4 or 5 times the entire game. Now, he did break up a few plays, but he really showed nothing. and as much as I love guys that come out, I mean, Sabitzer last year, I thought was fine. I wish we should have kept him. He looked really good for Dortmund against Newcastle. So there, as a critic of or skeptical of your coach, you can say, I don't like how he set up the team, but you have to understand what he actually has available. And then I'd rather, now I'm going to get to that point. Let me just look at what we had yesterday and who we had available and who couldn't really play. I think I've wrote this down, but I think there was probably 8 guys that were out there would never be in his top 11. And I would put Lindelof would not be there. He started on the left. Evans and Maguire would not be there. And Delot would not be there. As good as I like Delot, and I like all those players, but Lindelof can't play out there. And he would be the third choice center back. So the back 4 would not be there. You would have Wan-Bissaka, you'd have Varane, you'd have the Butcher, and you would have Shaw. He didn't have any of those available. He didn't have Shaw available. He had Reguilon. He could have put him on there, but he just came back from an injury, so he wasn't fit enough to play. And there's a lot of things you're going to see in this is that there was 3 or 4 players that were not at that point that were ready to play. And if those players would have played, possibly we would have got something out of the game. And then, of course, Malacias, who can play both sides. And he's not been available for the entire season. So I didn't put in my top 3 as injuries, but clearly it could be under quality players and injuries. And we can look into, you can say maybe there's something about that we're not. I think he's understanding that his style of play is killing his players. And he doesn't have the players that can play that. And I think the level is so much higher in the Premiership. It's more physical. You can't normally do that. And these guys are all like thoroughbreds. You can't do enough, then they just break down. And people get upset with him because he took out Højlund. And I'm like, I get it, but he's been saying this since we got him that he can't play like that. And the same thing that Garnacho does not start. And I talked about in my other video. He cannot play that craziness for 90 minutes. He has to develop these players to that physical ability to play that. And I think what he's finding out is he can't do that. And now he has to be more pragmatic. So the back 4 is already off. There would not be the top 11 that he would actually sign. So you would normally say if we were playing City and we had our best players, we'd have Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Hernandez, and Shaw. Correct? Is anybody doubting that? That would be that team. You might put Delot in there if he was having a good form and he was making a lot of, doing it. But Wan-Bissaka is unbelievable defending. And he definitely would have been useful yesterday. Lindelof he was so far out of position, and it's not his fault. And I guess you could say, but there was nobody else that he could have played there unless he put Amrabat back there. And then he couldn't do that because Casemiro was hurt. I mean, when we talk about injuries and having the ability for your manager to actually show his own ability and tactics and stuff when he has nobody to play, and then you want to be upset with him because he takes somebody out or he didn't put him where you wanted to put. Okay, that's fine, but don't sit there and say he should be kicked out. He should be kicked out of the team because of it. Anyway, we have issues, right? I'll talk about the top 3 now. Obviously, Højlund was going to start regardless, right? And he would be number 11. He would be in the top 11 regardless. He would be. And Rashford's going to start right now. Okay, and I said in my video yesterday, I don't think Garnacho is at that time that he could actually replace Rashford. People got upset because they put Rashford into the striker role and let Garnacho in. Rashford scored last year against them at that same position. So I don't have an issue with that per se. We have to get him off, right? We have to get Rashford ability to score. For his form, he needs it. You had Rashford and you had Anthony and you had Rashford, Anthony, and Garnacho on the field at the same time. I have no issue with that. Okay, you want to talk about his substitutions and all that? That's fine. A lot of people were really upset about that. They took off. You have to look at the long-term longevity of Højlund at this point. And he sees him every day in training. So the top two, when you look at Højlund and Rashford, are going to probably start in his top 11. The issue ends up on the right side when Bruno is playing out there. That can't happen anymore. And this is the one that everybody is 100% right about giving Ten Hag criticism. However, he is the captain. And the fact is that Bruno runs around with his head cut off so much when he plays in the midfield, but he also has the ability to make a great pass that can open up the game. His problem is that he didn't do well when it comes to defending over there. He went in the midfield all the time. He left that whole area open up, and it just came down, and Delot had to deal with that, or Lindelof had to deal with that, and he would be on the other side of the field and doing stuff, and it let that whole side wide open. But imagine if we actually had guys that actually cared about playing for Manchester United, or guys that are not going through so much shit on the right side. We got Sancho, who's playing FIFA at 3 o'clock in the morning and not ready to play. We got Greenwood, who, whatever his issue is, he's not playing for the team. Clearly, the manager, when he got here, him and he thought he was going to have Sancho and Greenwood playing for him, and he doesn't have any of those. So then he goes to get Anthony, and Anthony has not shown enough to start for Manchester United. And then he's got Mount that could play out there as well, and you got Pellistri. So really, if these guys were actually in the team, he'd have a lot of, if you had Greenwood and Sancho actually in the team and playing like they want to play in the team, we'd be fine there. And then Bruno could go back in the midfield, and we'd be somewhat okay. But you'd have to say that Bruno would not start. That position would no longer be his top 11. So that's 5 now. Then I guess you'd say, well, if you're not going to do that, you put Bruno in the midfield, which it would be. So Scott would be gone, Amrabat will be gone, or Eriksen would be gone. So you bring in Casemiro maybe, you bring in Mino, or you can leave Eriksen in there. The point is, there's probably 5 or 8 players here that would not be in his top 11. And they would not be playing in the positions that they're in. So you could be upset about the result, but don't expect, you look at the players that could he have put Hannibal and Mainu in there? No. He could have put Hannibal in there. He was available, but Mainu just came back from a huge injury. He has not played more than 2 minutes. I think he played a little in a reserved game. He wasn't available. Varane just played 5 or 6 minutes before he was not available. We pretty much knew he was not going to be available in the game. Reguilon, we knew he only played the last part of the game, that he wasn't fit to play 90 minutes against the champions. He was in such a very difficult position. The question is now, as you can say, Mount should have played in the midfield, put McTominay on the bench, have Amrabat and Eriksen, and then you have to shrew in Bruno in there because he's the captain, and some people think he's the best player we have. I think he's been very, very poor this year. I think he has quality. However, I could talk about this forever. And you look at the guys that we had on the bench. Martial, okay. Pellistri didn't even get on the bench, and I have an issue with that because I think we had 2 goalkeepers. I think Pellistri should have been in that game. I like Pellistri. Mount is just not. I don't know what his actual position is, and I think the fact that, and I think Sam made a great point about this, is that he brought him in so that we could be good in a transitional type of system. It's not working because we can't play that way anymore because we're all the injuries, and we haven't been able to do it. So his value is less, but I think he still should have a chance to play on the right or the left, either in the midfield or out wide. Now, saying all that, as I look through all this, I don't. I'm thinking the only thing he could have brought Varane, but I don't think Varane was fit enough to play against a team like City. So he said tactics. I think he was just basically saying he wasn't fit, but he was still on the bench because the fact is we got guys on the bench that are not fit, and I mean that's the issue, and people just don't. They just think that it's all the coach's fault. It's obviously it is because he has to do something so we don't have so many injuries, but there's more than just this. So, as I said about Sam, I thought it was a great video this morning, and I'll link it below. He didn't give a solution. If you really want us, if you think that the solution or the problem that's going to happen is if we continually play pragmatic and we lose, and he's going to get fired, well then what's the solution to that? Well, my solution is simply this: I would just play our youth players, the players that are in the team. They're in the first team that came from the youth team. Against Fulham, I would play Hannibal and Mainoo if they're available, if they are fit enough. If Mainoo can actually play, he would play there. And if Casemiro is fit, he would be there to partner those two guys. That would be my midfield. I put Garnacho where Rashford normally plays, and I put Mount on the right. I don't think Anthony has done enough to have a start. I just don't. Or I would put Palestri out there. There's a couple of things that I could do in there. I might put Mount in the midfield and maybe not have everybody be in youth in the midfield. You still have Casemiro there, and Bruno would be on the bench. Rashford would be on the bench. Eriksen would be on the bench, although I think that would be unfair to him. Arabat will be on the bench. All those guys will be back on the bench so they can actually see what's going on, to actually see what's going down, and let these youth guys actually play. And the fact that Palestri wasn't on the bench in the game, it's kind of hard for me to say now I should start him against Fulham. But I think that Mount needs a chance. Now, whether that's in the midfield or not, if you, like I say, if Mainoo can't go a full amount, then you put Hannibal, Casemiro, and Mount, and let Mount play where Bruno normally plays, and see what happens with that. And let him sit on the bench, let those players sit on the bench, and see that there's other ways to play better. So if that's the case, then maybe you can put Palestri on the right. There's a lot of things you can do about that. In the back four, I don't really, other than Lindelof, I don't think that they did anything really that bad. I mean, obviously, Holland did what he did. Dalot probably needs a time off, but again, there's nobody else there. Who else is going to play that possession? We got rid of that other guy that played that, and he's somewhere else. We can bring him back, but we won't do that. Reguilon doesn't look like he's fit back. I don't know. I hope that Varane is available, and so it'll be probably if it's Varane. I'm just saying if we had the ability. But there's no in the back four. We're kind of like fucked. So it might be the same team that played, unless Reguilon can go for longer, and then maybe I might put. It depends. We just don't know. We don't know about all this. So yeah, I would have Garnacho, probably Mount, Casemiro, and Hannibal, and then. Balestri maybe. Anyway, I know it's going to be controversial, but I think we need to get Greenwood back in January. I think that Ten Hag kind of thought he was going to have him available. They were to give Anthony a kick in the butt because now that Sancho's out of the picture, Anthony could act like an asshole and not do what he needs to do. And the fact is that Greenwood actually has a goal in him. The thing is, there are players here that can play the system that he wants to play. My issue is this: as a fan base, can we deal with the fact that he might, if I did it, or if he would do it, if he actually do this, if he just shaped up the team, if they were playing, we're not going to get relegated. We're not going to finish the top 4. Okay, we're not going to get relegated if we play what I just said. If they are available, let's just say that Hernandez comes back, or the Butcher comes back, and Varane comes back, and then we have Wan-Bissaka is starting to train. In a couple weeks he'll be back, and then let's just say we got Reguilon in the back 4, and then the midfield and the youth comes in, and we got Garnacho, and we got all the young players. You can put Mino in the, or Kobe Mino, Hannibal, Casemiro and stuff in the midfield for a while, and then let Bruno sit and watch. Let Pellistri play on the right. Rashford sit down and watch. Come on and be impact subs, and do something better because Rashford has the ability. He does not play the entire time. He walks around way too much, and Bruno, he runs around with his head cut off way too much. So I think that those are things that are necessary, and Højlund needs to play up there as well. I think that there are ways forward with this, and you have to have the players that will play it that way. I don't know that Garnacho can go a full 90 minutes, but he certainly can play 60 minutes, and then Rashford come in at the end of the game. This is what they deserve. They deserve because they didn't play very well. They haven't played well for a while. These players need to serve. They need to be benched, and they need to see the young players come in who actually has passion and plays for this team. And that's basically it. That's my solution. And I think eventually that will change everything. And we might lose some games, but if we lose 3-2 or 4-3 because we get run over, because we're too passionate or whatever, that's fine. We did that for a while. We went through a transition under Ferguson, and we lost a lot of games like that. And eventually we got it all together. I have no issue with that. That we can't have all these older dudes that have been around forever that continually at the big games down schools. They don't do exactly what they do. There were so many times in that game yesterday, especially 30 minutes left, that we'd allow them to hold on to the ball. And I'm like, at some point you have to go in and take the foul. You don't have to kill the dude, but show them that you're there. And there was nothing until Anthony came in, and then everybody said he's being an asshole for doing it. I don't think he was. I think it was a petulant way he did it, but we had to show that, this is still our house. You shouldn't be doing this stuff. We're going to still show that we're still there. But anyway, that's basically it. This has been a very long video. I think that this whole thing that Ten Hag should be out, again, as I said before, I was really, really late when it came to the other players, other coaches. I say, other than, I didn't really like Moyes ever, so I didn't really care when he left. But I like Van Gaal. I liked his attitude, his swagger. I thought it was kind of poor for us to fire him after he won the FA Cup. He should have got another year, in my mind. Now, again, I didn't like the way he played. Okay. Ole, started great, had some good players, still buying guys that are too old. Unfortunate, club legend. Never won a cup. If he'd won a couple of cups, then, it'd be great, but couldn't do it. Ragnick is just a transitional manager. Mourinho, a great coach, just never can really be any place longer than 3 or 4 years. But he knows what was going wrong with Manchester United. And, of course, our new coach. People just have to understand that just because he might say something doesn't necessarily mean that it's exactly what you think it is. He's saying I don't have the players to play that system, and he's also understanding after being in the Premiership now for 60 games, that it's a lot different to play that type of play, because other teams press. They don't press like Ajax does, or like Liverpool plays. That's why Liverpool has issues that they end up dying at the end of the season. Not every year. Sometimes they win it because it takes a lot out of the players, and you have to have a deep bench to do this, and you have to rotate. And the problem is you can't really rotate when half of your team is injured all the time. So it's just a very difficult thing for a player to get through. And people think, I mean, look at the shit that he's had to deal with. He had to deal with Ronaldo and the shit he said, so he got rid of him. And then you got two players who apparently did some sort of things to women. He's got to deal with that. And he has to deal with the expectations of a fan base that are just stupid, really, when you come down to it. We don't have the players that some of these other players have. Yeah, we played a lot of money. It doesn't mean shit. You have to have the right players to play the type of game. And we still have players that were bought and that played under Ole, and so many of them. And there are probably only one or two that should still be here. And he's got rid of a lot, but we have to give the man time. That's all I have to say about that. Again, that was a good video by Sam. No issue with Beth putting out a tweet saying what's the 3 things wrong with Manchester United. There's more than 3, but it's not the Glazers, not the top 3. It just isn't. The Glazers have tried to do things. Yeah, they put us in debt. All that shit is true. But the players, the management, the recruitment, the actual playing for the team, that's a hell of a lot more than what the owners have to do, if anything. And just former players saying it's this and this and this, that's all bullshit. It's not, it's a different thing. We had the greatest players. We had the most deepest team for about 5 years there. Should have won more Champions Leagues, but we were good everywhere, and our second team could have probably finished in the top 4. That's how good we were. We don't have that anymore. So it does kind of come down to the players, but the player or the manager has to have results. And if he feels that the best way to do it with the injuries that he has and the players that he has to be more pragmatic. They're going to do it, and it's not because Hoyle did it. It's not because Mourinho did it. It's because when you look into it and you see the players that we have, he's exactly right. He does not have the players to play like they played on Ajax. That's basically it. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you later.